Well, I will say I did think that the way they handled the loss for Bayley on Monday's Raw, where she came out kind of dejected, I don't think she ever said anything during that segment on Raw. It was all Dakota and Io that spoke. Io had that back and forth with not with Io, I'm sorry, with Asuka. They had that back and forth, and Dakota was kind of just talking. Bianca set up the WarGames match, whatever. Bayley didn't say anything. So I'm thinking, going back to what you suggested a week ago, do you see a scenario potentially where maybe they see Bayley as the weak link, and they boot Bayley from the group? And that begs the question, if you do that, who do you have replace Bayley as the leader of this group? This was her. It was the same thing like with Edge and Judgment Day, and we'll get to Judgment Day in a moment because they've actually rehabbed them to a point where I care about them now. We talked about that last week. I know you feel the same way. This was Bayley's group from the get-go. Like, she brought these women together behind the scenes and was the real catalyst for this group. If you boot her, do you put Sasha Banks in there? I wouldn't make Becky Lynch a heel again, obviously. Do you just keep them as a tag team? Do you break up the entire group? Do you put Io on SmackDown? I would just say break up the whole thing as opposed to just booting Bayley.
Yeah, I'd probably break up the whole thing then just booting Bayley. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could work because we thought Judgment Day was dead in the water at one point and they seemingly recovered. So, but yeah, I feel like if they're going to boot Bayley out at that point, you might as well break up the whole group.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think they should have the stipulation come WarGames, because these WarGames matches never really have any stipulations. There's no title shots on the line. There's no titles on the line. It's just WarGames. So what I think they should do is put the stipulation up for grabs that if Damage Control lose, they have to break up, because I think that would add some suspense, because we're talking about it right now as if it's a possibility. And even if they win, it's like, okay, then they have to stay together. There was a chance they could break up. That's what I would do. The problem with that, then, is that they're teaming with two other women who have no real, who gives it, Nikki Cross, I'm sure, doesn't give a shit if Damage Control is still around or not, so they're probably not going to do that. It's not as if, with the Bloodline is 5 guys, with Roman and Sammy, the Usos, and Solo, and then Paul Heyman as well. That would make sense if it's a 5-on-5 match and the entire group's in there. That's not the case with this one. Speaking of women's war games, though, I mean, we're going to be going back and forth between Raw and Crown Jewel here because they're kind of one and the same. They set up the women's war games match. So far, all we know is that it's all of Damage Control, Bayley, Io, and Dakota, and Nikki Cross, versus Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss. So that means in both matches, men and women this year are 5-on-5, and that's not normal, which is fine, but usually in NXT it's been 4-on-4. People have said, oh, it's the same thing like from NXT. It's not actually. For the last 5 years, I think, in NXT, aside from that first one where it was 3-on-3-on-3, pretty sure it was 4-on-4, but both are 5-on-5. Damage Control needs one more person. They have Nikki Cross with them. And then Bianca's team needs 2 more baby phases. Who do you see filling in those spots, and who do you think could fill in those spots?
Christ.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. It's tough. There's probably 0 chance this happens, but I would just put Sasha and Naomi on the babyface team and then put Tegan Nox with Bayley and them.
I don't think there might be 0 chance of the Tegan. There's never a 0 chance, but I think as far as Sasha and Bayley, or Sasha and Naomi coming back, I think that's pretty likely. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed. I'm not saying I'm expecting it, but they're in Boston. We saw videos of Sasha training in the ring a couple days ago. She posted it someone posted it on Instagram, so she's training for something. Maybe she's obviously just doing it to stay in shape, and she's not back for a while. I do think Sasha Banks is coming back to WWE. She's not going to AEW. I know she posted the Boston pictures last night. Again, that's something else. That's for a movie thing. She's not going to AEW. If she was going to AEW, she would have showed up last night. I had a lot of people telling me she's not going to AEW. She re-signed to WWE. That's what Meltzer said. The thing with what Meltzer said is that, yeah, I agree with what Meltzer said as far as her sticking with WWE. But just because he said it doesn't make it gospel. People using him as if what he said is 100% true is laughable, not because he's completely not credible, but it's just because this whole Sasha story has changed so many fucking times as far as the wrestling stuff goes. I've heard at least 20 different accounts. Oh, she's gone. Her contract's done. No, she's still with us. She'll be back soon. No, she won't be back anytime soon. So I don't really know what's going on with her. I think she is coming back to WWE, and I think there is a chance she could be back at Survivor Series. The Tegan Nox one is interesting, though, because I agree, I don't think it's likely, But we did hear her name floated around as someone that could be back, and, so is Mia Yim, and she's back as well. So I think that'd make for a pretty sweet addition to the heel team.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think Candice LeRae you could put on the heel team. Maybe she turns and she goes on the heel team as well, but that's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, I think, Candice can go heel. I don't love that idea. I've seen a lot of people say that. I don't love the idea, but it's possible. What about Becky Lynch? You think she'll be back before Survivor Series to join the team?
I think it's a little too soon, but I also don't know how long she was expected to be out anyways.
I think she was expected to be out like 3 or 4 months, which would put her back around now. But that being said, though, I mean, I haven't heard any updates on her return. And I mean, I think I heard that she's a while away from coming back, but that could just be, messing with the dirt sheet, so to speak. Like, that could just be exaggerated, and she will be back. So I think there's a chance. I don't know for a fact that she will be back, but I think there's a decent chance she could be in that match. So we'll see. I think that it's shaping up to be interesting. The whole damage control thing to me is not a failed experiment, but we're quickly approaching that point, and they got to either put heat back on them or do something. Them winning WarGames is like, okay, they win WarGames. I guess they win the feud with Bianca, but then what do you do with them? If we're not getting Bianca and Bayley 4 or 5 or whatever it is, and we shouldn't, then them winning doesn't really accomplish anything if Bayley's not the Raw Women's Champion.